I was 17 when my college acceptance letter came. Full scholarship to a state school, but it didn't cover housing, meals, or books. I was excited, proud. I came running into the living room, letter in hand, expecting some kind of celebration. Instead, my mom barely glanced up from her tablet, and my dad muttered something about already doing enough for me. Natalie, my younger sister, rolled her eyes and said, "Well, at least one of us is getting out of here." They didn't offer a dime. A week later, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. "We're saving for Natalie's wedding." Mom said, "She's the girl. Her future depends on it." My chest tightened. That was the moment something cracked inside me. They had chosen her. Again. Always her. I stopped asking. I picked up a second job, nights and weekends, delivering food. My dreams of being an architect dimmed under the fluorescent lights of gas station convenience stores and late-night dorm janitor gigs. The only one who showed any care back then was Tessa, Natalie's best friend. We used to talk for hours. One night, she found me sitting on the back porch, exhausted, eyes red from no sleep. She sat next to me without saying a word, handed me her scarf when I started shivering. That night, something happened. She kissed me. I didn't resist. We kept it quiet. Tessa was practically family. If Natalie found out, all hell would have broken loose. But those months we spent together felt like light in an otherwise dark tunnel. Then she left, said things were getting too complicated. That's all she gave me. No explanation, no goodbye. Just gone. Fast forward 8 years. I built a business from nothing. Learned crypto when it was still underground. Turned a few $100 into 7 figures. Moved out west, got therapy, found peace. I hadn't heard from any of them in years. Then, out of nowhere, my mother called. She didn't say hi. Didn't ask how I was. "Your sister's getting married." She said like it was an order. "We're planning something beautiful, something big. She deserves it after everything. We need help financially. The venue's expensive and—" I cut her off. "How much?" She paused. "120,000. I laughed, not out of humor, out of disbelief. She said it so casually, like I owed it to them. I asked why they thought I would pay, and she responded coldly. "You've been doing well, haven't you? You didn't need us in the end." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. They couldn't dictate my choices anymore, so they tried guilt. She said Natalie was marrying someone successful, a businessman named Mark. The name stuck in my throat. Mark. I knew that name. I had met him before. He was the man I found with Maya in my own apartment 3 years ago. My girlfriend, my apartment, my betrayal. And now, he was marrying my sister. I told my mother I'd think about it. She was pleased. Said they'd save me a seat at the head table. I hung up. Then I called Victor, my old friend from college who now worked in cybersecurity. "I've got a job," I told him, "and I want to burn every bridge I didn't build myself. Because if they wanted me involved in this wedding, then I would be, but not the way they expected. They thought I was still that desperate, obedient boy who watched them throw his future away. They were wrong. This time, I was going to be the one holding the match." Mark wasn't just a memory. I remembered his face vividly. 3 years ago, I walked into my apartment after a work trip and found Maya, my girlfriend at the time, half naked on the couch. The man standing over her zipping up his pants? Mark. I didn't know his name then, but I burned his image into my brain. Maya screamed, tried to explain, but it didn't matter. He smirked like he'd done it before. Now he was engaged to my sister. I didn't tell my family I knew who he was. I played along. I needed information. I needed access. I started watching Natalie's social media. She was flaunting the engagement like it was royalty. Posts with diamond rings, designer dresses, and a caption that said, "Grateful for the man who made me believe in love again." The irony made my stomach turn. I reached out to Victor. He still owed me a favor from our startup days. I gave him Mark's full name, birth date, and company. I didn't even need to ask what I wanted. He got to work. Within 2 days, I had access to Mark's private email. What we found made everything worse. Dozens of emails between him and a contact listed as T. Explicit messages, hotel confirmations, and voice notes. I recognized the voice instantly. It was Tessa, the same Tessa who had kissed me in secret, the same Tessa who vanished without warning. She had been seeing Mark during the time she was with me. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. And now she was back in the picture, like nothing happened. I felt like a fool. Victor kept digging. Mark's financials weren't what they seemed. He had 3 maxed-out credit cards, 2 lawsuits pending from former employees, and a business barely breaking even. Natalie was being conned, and she didn't even know it. Or maybe she did and didn't care. Either way, I knew exactly what I had to do. I reached out to Tessa, told her I was coming into town for the wedding, and wanted to catch up. She replied almost instantly, said she'd love to see me. We met at a small coffee shop. She looked surprised, older, more polished, but her eyes were the same. She smiled like nothing ever happened. I didn't smile back. I asked about Mark. She claimed they were just friends. I pulled out my phone and hit play. Her voice came out, moaning in a voice note saved in Mark's inbox. Her face drained of color. She didn't speak for 10 seconds. "I didn't know how to tell you," she finally whispered. I nodded. "You didn't, but now you will." I laid out the deal. She would cooperate with my plan at the wedding, or I'd expose everything, not just to my family, but to hers, to the media, to every guest with a phone. She agreed, not out of fear, but guilt, maybe a little shame. Either way, I had what I needed. Back at home, I compiled everything: emails, bank records, messages, photos. Victor helped me organize it into a clean, untraceable package. I created a presentation with music and graphics, something that would hold the room's attention. I even added a quote, "The truth always finds a way." Natalie kept texting, asking when I was wiring the money. I told her I'd bring it in person, that I wanted to see her walk down the aisle. She sent heart emojis and said she was glad we were finally reconnecting. I stared at the screen and didn't respond. I had no intention of helping her marry a liar. I had every intention of making sure she remembered this wedding for the rest of her life. Natalie sent me a draft budget 2 weeks before the wedding. Venues, floral arrangements, luxury catering, a private violinist, even a designer dress flown in from Milan. Total, $182,000. She said she and Mark could cover $62,000, but I'd only need to contribute $120,000 to make it all perfect. She called it an investment in family. I called it a transaction with parasites. I told her I'd handle the money personally, that I'd talk to vendors, negotiate better deals, even wire payments directly. She didn't care how it happened. She just wanted her fantasy wedding. I could hear the desperation in her voice. I knew Mark's finances were shot, and she was covering for him. Or worse, still blind to who he really was. Victor and I set up a secure account. We never intended to pay anyone. We just needed time. He was still pulling records, and I was building a story, one they couldn't deny or rewrite. I wasn't going to tell them how they failed me. I was going to show everyone. Tessa texted me late one night. She said she couldn't sleep. Guilt, she claimed, said Mark had always been manipulative, that he promised her things he never delivered. I didn't care. She was a pawn now, not a partner. I reminded her of our deal. Play along at the wedding. Follow my lead. Don't ask questions. She agreed. She'd do whatever it took to make it right. I didn't believe her, but I didn't need to. 2 days later, I met with a photographer. I offered to cover the cost in full, but I wanted all raw footage sent to me first. No edits, no previews. Just backups. He agreed. He was just happy someone wasn't nickel-and-diming him. Then I did the same with the DJ. Sent him a playlist. Told him to be ready to play a video mid-reception, under the guise of a family tribute. I began scripting that video like a surgeon. No extra drama, no voiceover. Just cold, hard truth. Screenshots of Mark's emails, his balance statements. Leaked audio of him mocking Natalie's intelligence in a phone call to Tessa. He called her a spoiled idiot with a rich brother. I added that clip 3 times for emphasis. It would hit like a hammer. Mark still hadn't recognized me. I kept interactions minimal. He probably thought I was just another background figure in Natalie's world. That worked in my favor. I watched him work the room at the rehearsal dinner. Charming guests, making jokes, kissing Natalie's hand like he wasn't the same man who wrecked my life once already. My father pulled me aside later that night, said he was proud I had come around, and was doing the right thing for family. I asked him if he remembered the day I got my acceptance letter. He said he didn't. Of course not. Why would he? That moment meant everything to me and nothing to them. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. It was Victor. "Everything's ready," he said. "Just give me the word." I looked around at the fairy tale unfolding in front of me. Smiling faces, glittering lights, a family pretending everything was perfect, but underneath it all was rot, lies, and tomorrow everyone would see it. They thought I was here to make peace. I wasn't. I was here to expose them. Let the celebration begin. The morning of the wedding arrived with forced smiles and fake affection. I watched Natalie float around in her silk robe, soaking up attention, posting behind-the-scenes shots online like she was royalty. Mark strutted like a man who had already won. My parents beamed with pride, completely unaware that the person they dismissed, overlooked, and treated like a walking ATM was about to upend everything they cared about. Tessa arrived an hour before the ceremony. She avoided Mark's gaze, but I could see the tension. She wasn't here to celebrate. She was here to play her role. I gave her a small earpiece synced to Victor's line. Her job was simple. Stand near Mark during the reception, wait for my cue, and react exactly how she'd rehearsed. She agreed without protest. If she was nervous, she didn't show it. I almost respected her for that. The ceremony went off without a hitch. Over-the-top vows, fake tears, a string quartet. I clapped when I was supposed to. I smiled for photos. I stood beside my sister and pretended like none of it bothered me. But inside, my pulse was slow and steady, locked in on the moment that was coming. Every word spoken that day would be remembered differently by nightfall. Dinner was served, champagne flowed, and then it was time for speeches. Natalie's maid of honor gushed about their childhood. Mark's best man told a rehearsed story about love at first sight. Then it was my turn. My mother waved me up, eyes bright with expectation. They thought I'd talk about family, about redemption, about support. I took the mic, smiled, and said, "I prepared a video instead. It says everything better than I ever could." The DJ nodded and hit play. The screen behind us came alive. At first, it showed childhood photos, me and Natalie, Christmas mornings, birthdays. Laughter filled the room. Then it shifted. Mark's voice came on, laughing in that clipped, smug way I remembered from years ago. "She's just a meal ticket," he said. "Her family's loaded. I'll marry her, bleed them dry, and bounce." Gasps filled the room. Then came the screenshots, his emails with Tessa, hotel invoices, financials showing massive debt, lawsuits. The clincher? A voice memo of him mocking the wedding itself, saying it was a stupid circus and calling Natalie desperate for validation. People froze. Mark stood up, yelling at the DJ to shut off. But Victor had locked the system. No one could stop it. Then the final blow, video footage of Mark and Tessa entering a hotel room just 2 weeks ago. Clear as day. Date stamped. Time coded. Undeniable. Natalie turned to Tessa, who was already sobbing. Real or staged didn't matter now. Mark tried to speak, but no one was listening. Guests were pulling out phones, recording, whispering. My mother's face went ghost white. My father looked like he'd been hit with a truck. I set the mic down without a word and walked out. Behind me, chaos erupted. Natalie screamed. Mark swore. Chairs toppled. Tessa tried to run. My family's perfect little world had cracked, and there was no putting it back together. Every lie, every betrayal they thought would stay buried had just been unearthed in front of friends, co-workers, neighbors. They wanted my money. They got the truth instead. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The silence that followed me out of the venue said more than any explosion of words ever could. That silence was filled with shock, disbelief, and the slow crumble of carefully curated lies. I walked to my car, drove 3 blocks away, and parked under a tree. My phone lit up with messages, Natalie's name popping up first. Then my mother, then Mark of all people. I didn't open a single one. Instead, I called Victor. "It's done," I said. "Good," he replied. They never saw it coming. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Someone had uploaded a bootleg clip from the reception. It had already hit 2 million views, complete with a clickbait title. Groom get exposed in front of 200 guests. Sister's wedding ruined by shocking reveal. I didn't care about the numbers, but I smiled at the irony. They always cared about image. Now that image was shattered. Natalie sent me a long message later that day. A wall of text filled with disbelief, rage, and, strangely, sadness. She didn't deny what happened. She didn't even defend Mark. She begged to know why I did it like that, why I humiliated her. I read every word carefully and replied with just 3 sentences. "You left me behind. You knew what he did to me. And you asked for my money anyway." She didn't respond after that. My mother tried to call again, 6 times in 1 hour. I finally picked up. Her voice trembled. "You destroyed us," she said, like I had committed some unthinkable betrayal. I didn't raise my voice. I just asked her one question. Where was this concern when I was begging for help to go to school? She went quiet. I hung up before she could gather another excuse. Mark? He vanished. Deleted social media. Disappeared from the startup scene. Last I heard, one of the lawsuits against him was moving forward faster, now that people were paying attention. His investors had backed out. His apartment was listed for sublet. Tessa? I don't know what happened to her, and I don't care. She made her choice a long time ago. Her guilt came too late. I didn't ruin a wedding. I revealed the truth at one. In the weeks that followed, distant relatives and old friends reached out, not to condemn me, but say they admired what I did. Some said they'd always seen cracks in the perfect image my family tried to uphold. Others admitted they wished they had the guts to confront their own. I didn't feel victorious, just clean, like I had finally rinsed off years of quiet resentment and emotional abandonment. There's peace and clarity, even if it comes dressed as chaos. I didn't return home. I had no reason to. The family I left behind didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never had. What they had was a structure built on favoritism, manipulation, and control. What I gave them was a mirror. Today, I sit in a sunlit office overlooking the city I chose, not one I escaped to, but one I earned. My life is quiet, purposeful. I still build things, only now they're on my terms. No one tells me what I owe. No one gets to define my worth. They asked for $120,000. They thought money could make me forget. Instead, I gave them something they could never return, a lesson in truth, and a wedding day they'll never forget.